Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Imagine, just for a second, waking up completely buried alive. You've got no parents to guide you, absolutely no instruction manual, and your very first test on this earth is literally just digging your way out of a dark, damp grave before you either drown or get eaten. Statistically speaking, you're probably not going to make it. Welcome to the absolutely brutal, unforgiving reality of the monitor lizard. Today, we're taking an expert look at the extreme life cycle of one of Southeast Asia's most intense predators, and we're doing it entirely from their perspective. We're going to trace the biological milestones and the constant, frankly terrifying environmental threats they face from the exact second they are born. So, our story starts somewhere deep in the jungles of Southeast Asia. As the slide says, you break through your eggshell into complete darkness. And honestly, it's a moment of pure sensory horror. You're trapped inside this tight underground chamber packed to the brim with loose soil. The air is ridiculously thick. You instinctively start clawing upwards, right? But the dirt just keeps collapsing back down onto your head. And then the terror really ramps up because groundwater starts seeping into the chamber. It pools at the bottom and rises incredibly fast. You are in a desperate, frantic scramble to break the surface before that water swallows you whole. So what did these first moments of survival actually look like? Step 1, you dig upward through that loose soil. Step 2, you escape the rising groundwater. Step 3, you finally break the surface. You claw your way out, you're blinking against the harsh light. And what exactly is your reward for surviving that flooding chamber? Step 4, dodging a coiled snake waiting right next to your nest. It strikes, you stumble, you run on these wobbly little legs, and for step 5, you scramble up the nearest tree, pressing your tiny body against the bark while your heart is just pounding. You haven't even had a meal yet, your mother is long gone, and you very quickly realize the number one rule of the forest. Literally, everything down on that ground is either your food or a fatal threat. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds. Because to really grasp the scale of this struggle, we have to map out the massive changes required to survive. We'll be looking at the hatchling phase, 3 months, 1.5 years, 5 years, and 6 years. You don't just grow larger over these years, your entire physiological and psychological approach to the world has to shift completely. You have to transform from a terrified piece of prey into a dominant apex predator. And the window to make that change? It's incredibly narrow and packed with danger. Let's start at week 2. You're still tiny, and an empty stomach is forcing you to make a terrifying choice. You have to climb down from the safety of that tree. You start hunting through the leaf litter, snapping up beetles and grasshoppers. At this stage, you're basically acting as the forest's microscopic pest control, but eventually you score a 5-star meal, a dead bird covered in ants. You start tearing at the soft tissue, finally getting some actual calories. But of course, nature doesn't let you eat in peace, does it? Let's check out these early growth threats. You've got your coiled snakes near the nest, larger aggressive monitor lizards, and small crocodiles in flooded areas. So while you're trying to eat that bird, one of those larger monitors appears. It hisses, opens its mouth wide, and lunges right at you. You try to snap back, but physics is just not on your side here. The larger lizard easily shoves you aside with its full body weight, completely blocking you from the bird. You're forced to back away and go hunt for crickets instead. And this cements a really harsh, undeniable reality of your early life. Size dictates absolute survival. If you are small, you lose, period. Fast forward to month 3. Without warning, your environment completely betrays you. The forest floor floods. The ground where you usually hunt is just gone. It's covered in rising water that fills all the low areas between the tree roots. So you're forced to abandon your usual tactics and adapt instantly, or you're going to starve. And this brilliantly illustrates the flooded environment adaptations. Instinctively, you're driven into the water and suddenly realize, hey, your body is actually built for this. You start using your paddling legs, your long tail whips side to side for propulsion, and you dive beneath the surface using extended breath holding to hunt small aquatic prey darting around the roots. You're successfully hunting underwater. But, just as you get comfortable, a small crocodile drifts towards you, its eyes just floating above the surface, and you're forced to flee right back up a tree. You can hunt in the water now, sure, but you're really still just a guest in someone else's dining room. All right, let's jump to month 8. You're moving through the undergrowth, your tongue is flicking repeatedly to taste the air. You track a scent to a clearing, and you spot a ground-nesting bird. You freeze. You take these slow, super calculating steps, and then you lunge. Let's look at this comparison because this is huge. You clamp onto the bird's wing and violently thrash it against the ground until it stops moving. Your first real kill. But here is the absolutely crucial developmental shift. While you're eating, another monitor approaches, slightly bigger than you. As you can see, at 2 weeks old, you backed away and abandoned your food. But now, at 8 months old, you hiss, you hold your ground, and you defend the kill. You position your body right over that bird, open your mouth, lash your tail, and the other monitor tests you, but eventually, it backs off. You didn't run. Your psychology has completely shifted. Now we hit the 1.5-year mark. At this stage, you aren't just surviving in the forest anymore, you're actively claiming it. You start walking the riverbank with this entirely new sense of ownership. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how you enforce that ownership. It's called scent marking your turf. You stop at various rocks and logs, and you literally drag your body across them to rub scent from the glands near your tail. It's a chemical warning broadcast to every other lizard in the area. This territory is occupied. And this pays off big time, because right after marking, you follow an odor to the water's edge and find a dead wild pig, half submerged in the shallows. Just a massive feast. But, of course, a feast like that draws major attention. Let's break down this riverbank combat sequence. First, the threat. Another monitor of your exact size shows up to challenge you for the pig. Both of you rise up on your hind legs, just hissing aggressively. Then, the clash. You crash together in the shallow water, wrestling, biting at shoulders and necks, tails violently whipping up the water. Finally, the victory. You execute the winning tactic by locking your jaws brutally around your rival's front leg. He bleeds, he pulls back, and he retreats. You secured the meal. You have officially fought for and won dominance over this specific stretch of the riverbank. Okay, moving on to year 3. You are highly confident now. One day, your tongue picks up a totally new, unfamiliar scent. You track it through the forest to a rocky outcrop, and you discover it belongs to a female monitor. You begin this slow, rhythmic approach, bobbing your head, but nature just loves to remind you of your place, doesn't it? Enter the brutal lesson. Before you can even reach her, the bushes explode open. A massive, heavily scarred older male charges you like a freight train. He slams into your side with his full weight. You try to fight back, but he's just overwhelmingly stronger. He locks onto your shoulder, shakes you, throws you to the dirt, and bites down, tearing right through your skin. It is a crushing, humiliating defeat. Your legs literally give out. You have to crawl, bleeding into the river, letting the current wash you away to hide in the rocks for days while your deep wounds close. The lesson here, no matter how big you think you are, there is always a larger monster waiting in the trees. But you heal up, and you keep growing. By 5 years old, you have finally become the monster. You're now one of the absolute largest monitor lizards in the entire area. Look at these steps for hunting large prey now. You track a small deer drinking at the river's edge. Step 1, you explode forward from ambush. Step 2, clamp your jaws onto its back leg. Step 3, you drag the thrashing prey right into the shallows. And step 4, this is brutal but efficient, you force its head underwater to drown it. You are taking down mammals that would have easily crushed you when you were a hatchling. And why does this matter to the bigger picture? Because by reaching this stage, you serve a vital ecological role. Your survival is exactly what balances the population numbers of small mammals, keeping the entire Southeast Asian ecosystem in check. So the crucial takeaway here is this state of apex dominance. You're gorging on the deer carcass, and a female monitor arrives. She doesn't fight you for the food, she just waits. You approach her, you mate, entirely undisturbed. No scarred males crash through the bushes this time. 0 rivals dare to challenge your presence. You're the undisputed apex predator. You've officially won the survival game on land. And that brings us to the final chapter, year 6. You are resting on the bank when you spot movement across the deep river. Confident and utterly fearless, you slide into the water, your massive tail whipping side to side as you swim directly into the heavy current. But as you push toward the deep water, something massive rises from the darkness below. Without warning, a crocodile erupts from the depths with its jaws wide open. And before your brain can even register the threat, they slam completely shut around your entire midsection. And this triggers the infamous death roll. Your ribs are crushed instantly by the impact. Your body goes stiff, you are spun violently in circles through the water. You try to snap back, but you catch absolutely nothing. Your massive claws, the same weapons that took down deer and shredded rivals, are now just scraping uselessly against the crocodile's armored hide. More bones break with every single rotation. Water floods your lungs as you're dragged inexorably down to the silty bottom. In seconds, the apex predator of the forest is rendered entirely helpless. Which leaves us with this final, stark realization. You conquered the forest, But who truly rules the river? You spent your entire, violently hard-fought life clawing your way to the top of the food chain on land, playing your crucial part in balancing the forest ecosystem. You survived the snakes, the floods, the starvation, the scarred rivals. But the river? Well, the river has always belonged to something older and something much, much bigger. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the world around you, and I will catch you in the next one.